Omitofo. Um, this class is one that is designed to present the proper way of meditating and the proper way of proceeding in a retreat. Um, when we practice at home, it's different than going to a retreat. Uh, a retreat is more intensive in terms of our application of the method. And as a result of this, it is something that, in order to get there, first of all, it's sometimes very much difficult because we have to travel, especially those if they're coming from the West Coast to the East Coast. But nevertheless, we have to travel. We have to leave our family behind. We have to leave our friends behind. We have to leave our pets behind, our work behind. And probably sometimes the work is one that's very, very difficult. Or if we had some issues at home, then we carry all this baggage with us to a retreat. When we come to the retreat, we're tired. It takes us a great effort to pack and to travel and to get there. And we're carrying all of this stuff kind of like a negative Santa Claus. And every once in a while, we'll pull out one issue and look at it. And everything is new at a retreat. Even if you've been there before, it is not something that, unless you're living at the retreat center, you're accustomed to the time change, the rules, the food, the weather, all sorts of different things come in that and that make it difficult for us to practice. Plus, there's this anticipation of doing better and getting somewhere if we've been there before. To people who are coming to a retreat and they're new to a retreat, they have a kind of a fear of not knowing exactly what a retreat's about, what's going to happen. And so when you go there, you're not very stable in your mind. You're jumping from thoughts to thoughts. And as this happens, we our mind becomes filled with these habitual tendencies. Plus, the very fact of going to a retreat and sitting, we have nothing to do. When we sit at home, we know we can sit for an hour, we can sit for 2 hours, whatever. But at the end, we will be back to our daily life. Here, all we do is get up to have a drink of water, go to the bathroom, stretch our legs, and then we come back again. So there is this change in terms of how we practice. And we're going to talk about two things. And what I've talked about right now is just simply the retreat experience and the attitude that one comes to a retreat. And then the second part is how to meditate. And this is applies whether one is at a retreat or one is sitting at home or sitting with a group of friends. How we practice, what is the proper way to meditate? How do we know we're meditating in the proper way? And this is all very, very important for us to kind of check on. One, those who are novices, that they can look at this and see, all right, this is what I should be doing. And those who are advanced practitioners or journeymen, they can also look at this and kind of say, am I really doing it this way? Oftentimes, as I present the way to meditate and the what is called right view, some people, even advanced practitioners or people who've been practicing for quite a while, really don't know what right view is, and they become complacent. Those who are new actually are easier to present this to because they have no preconceived notions as to what the practice is. And those who have those preconceived notions, we have to break that down. Oftentimes, those and I would say practitioners with much time of practicing, they at best have fallen into a unified mind, and they feel comfortable there. They're able to uh, close their legs or cross their legs and sit very, very comfortably. And they're no longer bothered by the pain, no longer bothered by anything. But it's kind of like sitting inside a refrigerator with the door closed. Everything is dark. But then uh, before long, they'll hear click, click, ding, and they can get up or they can continue sitting, but nothing is happening. The doors closed, the lights are off. And although this kind of a practice is one that they've become adept at being able to sit and cross their legs, they have not really delved into the um, the profound wisdom of the practice. And as one gets older in the practice, I see this many, many times. People have gone to retreats and they're older and they sit and they become very, very comfortable with this kind of a practice. So I'm speaking now to those who have been practicing for a long time, and for you to analyze your practice and say, am I really there, or am I just given up? Have I just decided this is enough for this lifetime, where I can sit comfortably, nothing bothers me? I'm kind of an elder statesman of Chan. But is this really the practice? One of the things that gives me great joy is finding someone like this and then showing them right view and showing them it's as if one breathes new light into, or new life into a lazy dog. Because this type of Chan, when somebody sits and they sit very comfortably at a retreat, but there's not really any Chan work, no mind work working there. I call it lazy dog Chan. Lazy dog Chan is somebody just like a lazy dog on a warm spring day with their legs out like this, and they're just basking in the sun, but nothing's really happening. And then they feel very comfortable with that, and they think that this is happening. Maybe it's like a slow crock pot. They come up and they're very calm. They reflect an appearance of uh, of a realization, but at this point, the realization is not very deep. It's very shallow. Still not bad, but I really want them to go further. And as they go further and they obtain a deeper realization, then they will see what the course of their life is for the until they breathe their last breath, is to share this with others. There's a certain zeal that one develops for this, not in a kind of a crazy way zeal, but a zeal of pushing and pushing and pushing and trying to share this kind of an experience with others. And we try to do our best. But this is something that's very, very important. So now we go back to the retreat setting. And as we're in a retreat setting, we have to be able to harness our intrinsic power. We do so understanding that everything in a retreat is the practice. Everything. So even if one is brushing their teeth, you're practicing Chan. When you're walking to and fro on the Chan retreat grounds, one is in a state of Chan. This is called walking Chan. If we talk, it's talking Chan. And if we sit, certainly it is Chan that we're sitting. This just sitting is misunderstood often. Just sitting is an attempt by some to blank their mind. And when we practice in this way to blank our mind, it is what Shifu would say, that we have entered into the devil's cave. It's dark, but nothing's happening. It's comfortable. And so we sit searching for something like this, some kind of an experience. Why? Because we want to shut out the myriad of thoughts and mental impressions that come up, especially in a Chan setting. That can become sometimes very overwhelming. Sometimes people on the second or third day want to quit. They can't take it any longer. They can't take all of the thoughts that are rushing through their minds. And it is up to the retreat leader to talk to them and kind of talk them off the ledge and have them come back and see if they can practice and give them a faith in the practice. But because they're in such a foreign environment, oftentimes it is that way, especially to novices, to people who've been practicing for a while. They know the routine, they know the drill, they know that they're going to have the pain and discomfort, but they're waiting for the no pain to mind to blossom, and which is good. But each time when we practice, we should start with that kind of an attitude. We start in this way rather than start with, I'm in pain. So much I there. You have to watch for the eyes. We don't practice in this way. When we sit very comfortably. And as we sit, we relax. We relax the body and we relax the mind. We kind of know what relaxing the body is. And maybe we know a little bit about relaxing the mind, but there are sometimes when we truly don't know what relaxing the mind is. When we start in this way, we have a better chance to practice well at a retreat. If we don't, then all of the thoughts that arise in the mind will bombard us and not give us any kind of peace. We will go around judging everything. Why? Because we left our method on the cushion. And then when we get up, we're bombarded with this. And when we sit down, we bring all that bombardment back to the cushion again. We're not practicing in the right way. We should come to a retreat with a proper attitude that this is such a precious moment that we're coming to a retreat. We should be like a man who is crossing the desert, and he has a canteen full of water. And this man, he's not in a hurry to swallow all of the water in his canteen. He knows that this water that he has in his canteen is so precious that his life depends on it. So little by little, he takes a little bit of this precious, precious water. If this man was in the middle of the desert and somebody comes to him and tells him, I will give you this bar of gold for your water, what do you think? Do you think that that person would exchange it for the bar of gold? Because if he continues on, he would be dead with a bar of gold on his chest. So rather, he holds this precious water. He keeps it and realizes how important it is. So to us, first of all, we should see the preciousness of the practice, whether we're sitting in meditation at home or we're sitting in a retreat setting. We realize this moment is precious, just as this moment right now in listening to the Dharma is precious. It will allow you to practice in the right way. So you understand this and you appreciate it. This is the attitude that one has when they approach their cushion, whether they're at home or whether they're going to a retreat. And when it is the attitude that one is uh, holds with them when they're at a retreat, this is a precious moment. Why start getting frustrated? Why getting angry because of things? Why do we fear? Can I make it or can I not? For novices, it's very natural to have these kinds of feelings. Actually, I only wish I had somebody to have that would have told me what I'm talking about today before I went to my first retreat. I I was really in shambles on the first retreat because I knew I was in trouble because my legs already hurt me, and they were just talking about the instructions for for the retreat. We hadn't even gotten to sitting yet, and my legs were already in this way. And so a feeling of fear came over me. And it was difficult for me to get over that. And this feeling of when will this pain go away? And you become desperate at, at that moment. I even remember in my first retreat auctioning to myself that if I could leave the retreat and nobody would know that I was there, that I would say, oh, easily I'd pay $500 and then 1,000 and then 2,000. And I got up to numbers very, very high going, I'd be willing to pay this. I don't know where I'd get the money, but if I could just snap my fingers and just be back at home and forget about this, I would pay it. To me, it was a big mistake. To me, I thought Shifu ran a house of pain. And it wasn't until I was able to see all of these fears and anger, true anger coming out, that I was able to break through. But if you have people who are novices, you have to let them know what to expect and say, you can get through this. We've all gone through this. And then when you look around and you see, I remember I was placed between two advanced practitioners. They'd gone to many, many retreats. And I looked to the left and looked to the right, and they looked like stone lions, never moving. As soon as the last hit on the fish, they didn't move until the bell rang. And here, my mind was moving. I was so fidgety. I was so nervous. When is this going to stop? I did not have the right attitude when I came. I didn't know what to expect. So it was difficult to practice in this way. If we know this going in, at least we have a better chance to be able to sit and to overcome this, knowing that it can be overcome. And in that very first retreat, I did overcome that. And it's the reason why I'm speaking to you today, so that people can understand that, people can begin to realize what mind is. When we realize what mind is, this is what is called right view. It's very important for us to have it. It's very important for us to come to a retreat with right view. Without having right view, it's very difficult for us to fathom what we're doing there. Truly, it's difficult for us to fathom because we're going, I'm expecting to have nirvana, and instead I got painana. I've got pain all the time. And we don't understand this. We don't understand that this body that we have is illusory. The pain we have is illusory. The thoughts of the pain that we have is illusory. It is what we're doing on the cushion is to come to this kind of a realization. But it's difficult for us because we have a we, I. Who am I? Forget about who am I. Forget about it. It's just a dog chasing their tail. Don't entertain such notions. It's not who am I. It's what is mind. What? Even before one says is mine, that what or what? That is where your search is at. Your search is in looking at mind. That's why I call my groups mind work. We don't talk about I work. I'm trying to become a better citizen. I follow the paramitas. I do all these things. Too much I. When we go to retreat, all those I's come out. Why? Because when we're sitting there, we have nothing else to do. When we're in a work setting, we only have to think about work. And or if you're not that great of an employee, about lunch and about going home. But when you are there, there's so many different things that come up. It's difficult for us to do that. When we're at home, we're busy cooking, cleaning the house, busy watching TV, whatever it is. But our mind is still in the background running I, judging. We just don't pay that much attention to it because the volume is not very high. It's like having a very annoying radio station playing in the back of your mind, but you don't pay too much attention to it. When you're sitting on the cushion, all of that background noise is amplified. All of a sudden it comes up. Why? Because you've never paid attention to what's going on in mind. You believe that's you. You believe that you are creating all these thoughts and doing things. And so all of a sudden you hear all of this noise as in the full volume that it really is, but you didn't notice it before. So you're sitting there on your cushion going, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. Why can't I stop my mind? Because there's no my to mind. There's no I to mind. All of this is there. But the most important thing that we should know about this is that it's there naturally. This is mind work. This is right view. It's there naturally. It should not be a surprise. If you harbor ill will towards somebody and it's very, very strong, it's natural that you're going to have that come up in your retreat. Why? Because causes and conditions never fail. You have put that into your mind, and so it will come up naturally because it's such a strong emotion, or could be a recent emotion or a repetitive one. It's going to come up. Work will come up all the time. Why? Because you spend a third of your life at work. So it's natural thoughts of work will continue to come up. And it's natural you'll have thoughts of things that just recently happened. You have to watch that and see from where it's coming from. This is the manner in which we practice. We practice in a way that we are aware how this comes up, why it's there. But we're also aware that if we do not feed this, it will go away naturally. For instance, if one went to a canyon, a very deep canyon, and you go, Gilbert, what will you hear back? Gilbert, 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 Gilbert. Gilbert, 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 Gilbert. Go to a canyon and shout your name and see if you can will it to stop echoing. Can you do that? No. Because whatever the sound is there, it's naturally occurring. You set it into motion just a moment ago by shouting your name. So it will continue to echo. If you shout again, it will continue to echo again. If you stop shouting, it will, by its own nature, dissipate. And it will be silent again. When we sit on the cushion, we don't know that. We are trying to will ourselves to stop thinking. This is foolishness. Just think about that in the next retreat you're at and try to stop your echo. Try to stop your thoughts. You cannot do that because they're naturally appearing in mind. Just in mind, not in your mind, in mine. When we begin to have this kind of an attitude, we have a chance when we're at a retreat. Without it, we are like a boat with no rudder. We will quickly lose our way. But when we understand, all I have to do is just sit. Mochao, just sit. But we want to generate thought. We want to generate some experience. Sometimes I have students that are sitting, waiting for an experience. They got one. Wow. Wait till I tell Gilbert about this one. They're so anxious. They want to get something. But with our practice is one that's very, very delicate, very subtle. And in the beginning, what we try to do is cut out gross pieces of our mind, trying to stop it. We already know that that's not helpful because when we try to practice in this way, all we're doing is we're regenerating interest in what we were trying to push away. So let's say somebody had something from your childhood. Somebody sees somebody that they think is very, very beautiful or handsome, and they see that person and they can't get them out of their head. They're just always there. It's natural. It's going to be there. They're going to be thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it, even if you want to put it out of your head. Or if you had a bad experience, an embarrassing experience, you want to put it out of your head. So you're trying to push it and push it, but you're actually using mental energy to cast it out of mind. And so as a result of that, it will come back up again. It's as if somebody's using one of those plungers on a plugged up sink, and they push down the water and push it down, and they go, there, it's gone. But they never got to the clog, so all the water seeps back up again. We are not practicing in the right way. When we sit to meditate, we have to sit with this attitude of picking up nothing, putting down nothing, just be in the present moment. What is this be? It's not you. It's just let mind be. Mind is there. And again, we talk about this delicate balance there, that we use what is called samatha, which is concentration, to stay in the present moment, to stay on the method. But we cannot be like this, sitting and trying to strain. In the beginning, we will utilize more energy to stay in the present moment. That is natural because we need to be able to do that. If you remember when you were trying to ride a bike, it took you much more concentration to think about how to ride the bike and to stay there as you're kind of going and veering this way and veering that way. We have to use more concentration. But then what we learned was that if we just ease back and not overcorrect when we're steering, then it works much better. So then we smooth it all out. And so we just use the right amount of concentration, the right amount of effort. This right amount of effort then produces samadhi. So what is samadhi? Samadhi is the application of mind in a steady and uninterrupted, continuous way. So as we see the practice, we begin to get this, and when we begin to dial back concentration, we don't need as much concentration. We can stay in the samadhi. But our work is not done there, because we can will our mind to be very single-pointed. But it could be single-pointed to the point of the exclusion of appearances in mind, so that we just enter into a black dead zone. And we can do that. And many of you have, and many of you believe that this is the true nature of mind. It is not the true nature of mind. It's just that you've willed your mind to stop functioning. This is very important, because mind functions. Mind is very dynamic. It's very active. It points directly to samsara and says, look at the mess here. This samsara is so messy. It has hatred. It has greed, ignorance. And it just rolls up the sleeves and says, let's get to work. It's very dynamic in this way. It doesn't say, that's just samsara. I just don't need to be there. I'll just sit here and blank my mind. This is a worthless samadhi. And if you teach it to others, woe to the world. Rather, we balance the samadhi with the vipassana, the illumination of the mind. This is difficult. It's truly difficult to fathom what the illumination of the mind is, because it's not conceptual. It's not something you can go and have an aha moment and say, now I understand. If you come to the master and say, I now understand. If it's a good master, he'll say, you will never understand. Why? Because it's beyond conception. It is mind itself. How does one define mind, where mind essentially is the fabricator of all mental appearances? Everything that appears within mind because mind fabricated it. But this too is not something that's easy to understand. We say, well, if mind is so good, we're not talking about God here. If mind is so good, then why would all of these things appear? Shouldn't mind be able to just let it go? I remember once when I was talking I ran into Shifu before a retreat, and I had these little strange encounters with him quite regularly when he was around. And I was happy to go, and I was very young in my practice, and he was coming up the stairs at CMC, and I was going down, and I caught him in between and said, Shifu, I understand this practice now. And so he looks at me and says, and he has his hands like this. And I said, I understand. It's like if you're riding a bike and you put a spoke in the wheel, then right away everything stops. And Shifu just looked at me and nodded. He thought about it and said, yes, yes, just like that. And so I felt really happy about that. And as I was walking away, he went, Gilbert. So I turned around and he said, but remember, it only stops for you. And that was important to me in terms of what he said to me, because he was always pushing me to the Mahayana. He was always pushing me to see, to the mind side, not from the self side, not from getting something, but he was always pushing me to the mind side. At the first retreat, at one interview that I had with him, he said, Gilbert, you can become a Lohan. That's an Arhat. So I thought this was pretty good. But then further down in the retreat, I realized that was, for me, an insult. And he was subtly rebuking me by saying, you're too interested in getting out of here. You know, this is the work of a Arhat. But what about the others? And all of these subtle comments of Shifu went deep in, because I had my faith in him. They went deep into me. And I realized that there's more to this. There's more to this than us just sitting on a cushion and then getting a prize. It's a matter of life and death to all of you. How many lives and deaths must you suffer before you could realize you need not have to suffer any life or death? So it is this kind of a function of mind that's important, that we realize when we sit on the cushion. We cannot sit there and go, come on, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. In due time, mind will reveal something. Maybe just a tiny little bit of the truth. Just a tiny bit. Kind of to whet your appetite. But that is still something. But we do not try to take that tiny little bit and examine it and examine it and examine it. We just know that, like a miner seeing a flake of gold, that there must be something more here. So we continue to dig in the present moment, without the idea that we will run into it, but with the faith that if we continue to dig, that we will soon run into this vein of gold. This is the way that we practice, with not the idea that we're going to get anything, but with the idea of the faith that this is the way. So we always talk about what is the way. And masters are always trying to keep people from conceptualizing as to what the way is. Even if I said this is the way, it's not the way. But it is in the heart, in the attitude that one practices, that they will see the way before them. Everything is the way and nothing is the way. It is just in this way. So when we have the samadhi, we have to balance between the samadhi, keeping the mind in this present moment, and the illumination of the mind. The illumination of the mind is how mind works. Mind will reveal that to you. but it reveals it not to you. It just, you're not there. It's just as if this lotus opens up, and then you realize, mine. We do not say, oh, this is mine. Because if we say this is mine, then we have to say something else isn't mine. But when we understand this, and when we understand that when we're sitting on the cushion, then when we're sitting to meditate on the cushion, as thoughts come by, we just simply are aware of them. We're aware of it. And we keep our mind there in the present moment, relaxed. We are aware of our method. And if our method is silent illumination, no method, we're just aware of the present moment. And just as if there were clouds that were rolling by, we are aware that they're going by. But our attention is on the present moment. We don't have to look at them directly to know that they are arising. So as I sit here and I talk to you, my mind can be aware of who's coming into the retreat, who's going out, who's having trouble with connections, but it doesn't bother me. If there's extraneous sounds, it doesn't bother me. But the mind is aware of all of those things. Why? Because in this moment, there's no Gilbert. That is just simply the function of mind, the heart of mind, and this sincere desire to pass this on. And so that you can realize that Gilbert, he has nothing to teach me. But you keep learning until you realize I have nothing to teach. It's always been there. So when we sit on the cushion, we sit calm, relaxed, in the present moment, perfectly aware of what is arising. We don't make a distinction to what is arising through the external senses and through consciousness. All of that is just occurring within mind, but it has nothing to do with us. We just simply have to sit. The body has nothing to do with us. Shifu used to say, you give the body to the cushion, the mind to the method. So we just give the mind to the method. Keep it there. Continuous. It has to be continuous. You have to understand, if you begin to think about extraneous things, it is not going to work because of Pratika Samapada. Causes and conditions never fail. This is very, very important. It was so important. It was what Sutra Monifo Shakyamuni Buddha taught to the ascetics. One of the first things after the Four Noble Truths, after he could calm them to a certain extent, then he taught them the 12 Nidanas, the laws of dependent origination. Why? Because he was teaching them mind work. He wasn't talking about self or not self. He was talking about how mind works. Why? He was sharing the Buddha mind with him. Sharing it. Just as I'm sharing it with you. Did they all get it? Perhaps not as deep as him, but they still were able to understand this is right view, how mind works. If you plant a melon seed, you get a melon. Very, very simple. And whatever we do from body, speech, and mind is this way. This 12 dependent originations that he taught, Pratika Samapada. This is mine. This is Buddha. Do not look for it anywhere else. It is just in this moment, clearly appearing. Difficult for us to see that when we hold on to our name. when we let go and we're just there in the present moment, aware. We are aware perfectly of why everything is arising. Not only why it's arising, where it's arising. This is very, very important. Where do these appearances arise? All belong to mind, all generated by mind. But we say, but this is something foul. How could it be created by mind? Isn't the Buddha pure? We're holding on to appearances of sacred and profane. We do not understand mind is Pratika Samappada. That may seem negative to us. How can the Buddha be so bad to cause war? Buddha's not causing war. There's not even a war there. It is appearances. It is suffering. We are suffering, but we're illusory. The Buddha mind is perfectly reflecting what is being put into it. But it is not without compassion. We have the compassion of metta and karuna. Karuna, the understanding that there is something to someone that believes that they're suffering. And we want to take away this kind of suffering. This is important because this is the pivotal part of the practice in terms of Mahayana. We do not practice for ourselves. We don't worry about whether the world stops for us. We want all of the suffering to go away. So we practice in the right way. When we sit, we understand that whatever appearances are appearing in mind, they're there naturally. Why? Because from causes and conditions, we put them there. So we understand if we do not give them any mind attention, they will dissipate. We have faith in the Buddha, faith in the teacher, faith in the Dharma. But what we lack, as Master Ling Chi said around 1,200 years ago, imagine 1,200 years ago, and he was saying, the young people of this day, they have a problem in practicing. And he said, what is their problem? He said that they do not have faith in themselves. You can have faith in the Buddha, faith in the Dharma, faith in your teacher. But if you do not have faith in yourself that you can practice right, it will not come to fruition. It is just in this way. When we sit, we have to have faith in our own effort. We don't give up. We are relentless. We have to practice. And if we practice in the right way, great. If we practice and we only give 5 minutes to the method and another 35 minutes to scattered thoughts, what do you think? Pratika Samappada. The next time that you sit, you'll only be able to practice for 5 minutes. But if you set upon this practice with full faith and say that it can be done, it will. It will be done because you have faith. And that this faith is extremely important, that you have to do it in this way. When Master Shen Ying was coming to America, his master Dong Chu was talking to him and saying, I heard you're going to America. And he said, yes. And he said, what are you going to do there? And Shifu said, oh, I'm going there to teach him the Dharma. And Dong Chu said, you're going to teach him the Dharma? So right away, he was already correcting him. He said, well, actually, not really. I'm just going to talk about the Dharma. Because Dong Chu was telling him, remember, the Dharma cannot be taught. So to keep his mind clear and precise. And then he said, Shifu looked at Dong Chu and he said, don't worry, Master. I won't let you down. And Master Dong Chu said, forget about me. I have my own place here. You know, I am the master here, and I have the Dharma. He said, don't you let yourself down. And he didn't. And what Shifu accomplished was amazing. Me, I'm already on my I don't know if I passed golden years now, but no, I haven't even come close to Shifu's accomplishments. But it doesn't stop me from trying, to practicing, to try to deliver illusory sentient beings. We don't let ourselves down. We don't let ourselves down because so many people are counting on this. All of the people, and you think I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about you. I don't think in that way. I'm talking about those that you will bring to the practice. But I need you not to let yourself down in order to bring those people, and those people who they will bring to the practice. This is what we're doing when we're sitting on the cushion. It's noble. We are there not for ourselves. We are there so that we can practice the best. We only give our best at a retreat. Don't go there and give a half-hearted effort. You're wasting time on the cushion. Sometimes I say to my students, if you come with this kind of attitude, get off the cushion, because you're using up precious oxygen other people could use. We have to have right view. Right view permeates everything that we do, from becoming prepared to go to a retreat, traveling to the retreat, to being in the retreat, and not having one eye either towards the goal of enlightenment, or one eye towards the exit door after 7 days. They all have to be in the present moment, continuous in the present moment. Now, many of you have seen this before, but these are what we do. When we meditate, we have to be relaxed. We have to be in the present moment. Going back to relaxation, in the relaxation, what we're doing is relaxing the body and the mind. I've talked to you about that. To be in this present moment, we are constantly sharpening the present moment. Don't think the present moment consists of this moment and without any kind of a sharpening of that. You have to sharpen it to just this breath, and just this part of a breath, just this click. So when one even hears a snap of a finger, one is aware of the beginning of the snap, the middle of the snap, and the ending, and let it go. Boom, it's gone. But we have awareness as long as it's there. This is awareness. So when we practice, we have to have awareness. Awareness is not thinking. We do not need to think to be aware of something. We are just simply aware. Mind is aware. The more that we allow mind to be aware, the broader the awareness becomes. Initially, it's just awareness of sitting, and then awareness of the Chan Hall, and then the awareness of your local area, until the awareness expands beyond that. But we do not try to fabricate any concept of that. It will happen on its own. We have to contemplate. Contemplation is a very difficult thing for us to think about, because as we contemplate, what is contemplation? We can equate it to the direct contemplation exercise of just focusing on a single object. In meditation, we simply focus on the method. We just focus on it. We give it no name. We give it no time period. We give it no form. It is just there. It is just the thusness of the mind looking at something, an appearance within mind. And then of course, we have our method. We have to know clearly what our method is. We have to know that our method is there, and we just are able to distinguish it from other thoughts arising in the mind. If a thought arises in the mind, there is no harm in that. One of the ancient masters said, the harm is not in a thought arising in mind, because he knows naturally it's going to arise. He said, the harm is not knowing that it has arisen in mind. Please try to remember this. In the meditation, the thought is not knowing. If the mind is in the present moment and it has awareness and is contemplating, it will certainly be able to distinguish when a thought has arisen in mind. It knows that, but it doesn't have to run out to greet it or to push it out of mind. It just knows that that's there. Why does it know it? Because Pratika Samappada, causes and conditions never fail. It's clear in this moment. Just as you're clear here, listening to this lecture, you're clear about this. You are not riding a bike. You are not walking outside, whatever, cooking. You're clear about this present moment of what is happening. And you know that. And if for some reason, some extraneous thing would happen, you would be aware of it immediately. And so this is how we practice. It has to be continuous. And this is the part that's difficult for people, is because we don't allow things to be continuous. We break it up by these thoughts that shoot by, and then we start following the thought. But if we're there and we become aware, right here, we're aware already that this thought has come into mind. And we're still on our method. We're still in the present moment. What's in the present moment? This thought right here that's starting to weaken and leave, it's in the present moment too. But we don't have to do anything about it. Our mind is just simply aware of it. And when it's gone, it's gone. Where did it go? We don't have to ask about where it went. It appeared in mind and disappeared in mind. Everything is mind. This is right view mind work. You understand the principles, the fundamentals of how mind works, then you can sit on a cushion. If you don't understand that, you're going to be like a duck sitting on a wooden egg, or what they say, a cold stone or dry wood. Shifu used to say a rock in sitting in cold water. This is worthless, because this practice is from the samsaric side. Samsara cannot search for mind. Samsara is mind. Yet it believes it is mind via consciousness. It has it the opposite way. Consciousness did not create the Buddha. It did not create the things around it. But we believe that. The Buddha just is. But within it is samsara. When we sit and we're aware of that, whatever comes up in our mind, we just simply let it go. Mind, though, has the illumination, the discernment, the wisdom, anyatara samyak sambodhi. It is able to perceive everything in a very, very clear way. Understanding the fundamentals of Pratika Samappada. When we can sit in this way and we go to a retreat, believe me, you will make progress. One of the ancients said that if you go to a retreat and you sit continuously with the method for 7 days, that you will realize your true nature. And he added this: if I am wrong about this, may I for infinity be in a Viki hell where they cut my tongue out continuously. So for somebody who believes in these things, this is a very, very serious representation, but it is one that is made fearlessly. Because if one can do that, I'm not talking about doing that and sitting on a cushion and then getting up. I'm talking about when you're brushing your teeth, when you're walking, when you're eating, you maintain the mind of Chan. If you can do that, then you will realize mind. If you cannot do that, it still doesn't matter. There'll still be portions of mind that one can still realize. It's still not bad. But if you really want to use this mind, then use it properly. There's no thinking in this. And this is something that's difficult for us to understand, this concept of Wu Yin, not thinking. It is not that we do not think, it is that we do not attach to it. So much to tell you and so little time to do so. And I only looked at the first two lines of my what I prepared for you. So we'll leave it there and allow you to ask some questions. But let this kind of sink in. This is, there's a lot to what I'd mentioned to you on different levels. So thank you for listening. And I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. Now, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand and the IT host will unmute you so you can ask Gilbert directly. Okay, I saw one hand up. Ching Ching. Yeah, please go ahead. You can ask your question.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was just able to unmute it. Sorry.
It's okay.
Several attempts. Sometimes they guard it really tight. So there's a few times after I asked the question, I quickly mute myself. And then when the teacher finished talking, I couldn't even thank him because then I could never unlock that mute again. But anyway, so sorry not to take up everybody's time. I appreciate your talk very much, Mr. Gilbert. I listened, I have followed you several times, and there are times I couldn't understand totally what you're saying because of my language limitation, not your fault. But there's several times I really truly can, I was touched by what you were trying to tell us and what you teach. So I wanted to thank you for that, taking this opportunity to thank you for that. I love your echoing examples, and that was very, very helpful. I think I can apply that to a lot of other things. But the question that I have is, when on one hand we have to kind of see that there's really not a Gilbert or not me, that is just a function of the mind when we are dealing with many aspects of things. But on the other hand, we have to tell that there's ourself that we have to have faith. So maybe it's because I have to be reminded several times, how do we kind of be able to turn around on these situations that on one hand, there's no self, but on the other hand, there's like you have to have faith on yourself to be able to do something. So can you enlighten me on that again? Thanks.
Yes. And this was something that was to me presented to be a conundrum, meaning that something very puzzling in my mind, what that meant. But it actually is very, very simple, because when the master Dong Chu was telling Shifu not to let himself down, he wasn't referring to Shifu. He was referring to mind. Mm-hmm. And the true nature, what we call the self nature of mind. This self nature is the very nature that is asking the question right now, that has the puzzlement. Mm-hmm. Don't disregard that. We always return back to the self nature. We don't let it down. If not, then we're stuck in samsara. And as we're stuck in it, we continually believe there's this individual ego or personality that's there. But we have to turn the mind's eye inward. When we turn the mind's eye inward, then we become aware that's just this mind. And so when he says, don't let that down, that's what he's referring to. So now you can use this to constantly return to mind.
I see. Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a good question. Okay, there was another one popped up, Mark Williams. It's gone now. Eon.
Oh, yeah, Mark Wu.
Well, there was a
Mark Pusa. Mark Wu.
Hi, Gilbert. Merry Christmas.
Oh, Merry Christmas to you. Go ahead.
I try to take all the notes what you're talking about today, especially among the right view, the proper attitude, and the practice in the meditation. And your whiteboard is a very important summary. But I do have a question on those whiteboard where you try to present it. Those 7 key points, is that this all including the right view, the proper attitude, and in the right way of the practicing, or the right view has another way embedded in your whiteboard. When we practice and relax the present moment, there's a right view embedded inside. How do we take the right view in like what you say, every moment, everywhere? So we are aware of the right view, but also apply to your whiteboard, your 7 key points.
Your last sentence was precisely what one should do, which is when you said that we are aware. It is that awareness has no thought. It is just simply because you have maintained mind work in your practice, that the mind work will be there. I often talk about that the mind work it sets the table for the practice. It is saying clearly one practice is aware of how mind works. We need not hold on to the scholastic or doctrinal thinking about this. We just simply, what I presented was the elements of a proper meditation. Implied in that is your correct right view. So we have this right view, but we don't bring thought to the practice. We understand that, and we now are beginning to use it in a functional way. So in the functional way, we have acquired wisdom. The acquired wisdom is to know that there is no mark that is talking. It is just mind. So doctrinally, this is something that can be stated. It's a concept, but its meaning is beyond a concept. When we begin to practice meditation or the Chan practice in anything that we do, then this is no longer doctrinal. It is our practice and eventually our natural course of conduct, which we call an actualized wisdom. So this is distinguished from this wisdom of let's say samsaric understanding to an actualized wisdom, and which ultimately would lead to the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, this highest perfected wisdom. But at least we're walking and sitting in Chan. We're talking in Chan. So this actualized wisdom is precious, is very, very important. But to get there, we still need the doctrinal. But then we have to leave the doctrinal behind as we sit. We understand it, and it is what is there that will correct us if we come off the method. Or if we go, wait till I tell Gilbert, no, go back to the method. Back to the method. And it will correct us when we're not practicing in the right way, or we're conceptualizing about something. It's a very delicate balance between this, where we practice, I mentioned samadhi, and the illumination. The illumination has to be there, but very few understand what that illumination is. Without mind work, it's almost impossible to understand the illumination of mind. You can do that, but it's very difficult. Okay, so hopefully I answered your question. I think, Ian, you popped up with a question? Yeah.
I suppose I can ask one. So one of the things that, you know, I've been experiencing a bit with the meditation is that, you know, have a little bit of initial success where, like, there will be the experience that, you know, the thoughts, the thinking that's happening, that thoughts aren't really thoughts, and that there's just like this spaciousness quality about it. But it seems like there's this inevitable point where I'm relaxing and relaxing, and I'm getting more and more gentle with my method. But, you know, then I forget what I'm doing. And then thoughts are really thoughts, and that they are capable of being grasped of. And instead of just this open spaciousness, I'm hurtling earthward towards samsara again. So what can I do to help prevent that?
You just keep practicing, and you use the discernment of mind to do that. So at least you're there struggling with the handlebars, trying to keep it steady. So that's not bad. Okay. You're not all of a sudden looking around and then crashing. You're trying to keep it steady. You just return to the elements. You relax. You're back in the present moment, awareness, contemplating the method, and it's continuous. As I've mentioned before, I've been using this analogy recently. It's kind of like we're playing a game. You could say it's a poker game or whatever it is. And you start with a stack of chips. Right from the very beginning, when you sit, you should already have a stack of chips there. And you begin to lose them as you lose your practice. And then once you realize you've lost your practice, you just return back to the elements of the practice. Check, relaxed, yes. Present moment, okay. And then the chips reappear. So now you can play again until you lose the chips. This is a better way of practicing rather than going, if I win this, I will get this enormous stack of chips. You already have it. And that reflects that just this mind that you're using to ask the question is the Buddha mind. Where else do you search for it but here? So we don't, like what Master Ling Chi says, cut off our head and then start looking for our head. So when that happens, we just put our head back, get our chips up, and then start practicing again until we lose it and we come back again. So don't do it in the reverse way, because when you start going, oh, I'm getting these chips, you know, don't worry about that, because they'll always come back, because you cannot lose your mind. You can lose your practice, but you can't lose your mind. When you lose the practice, then if you lose your mind, where would you find it? It's just right here, right in this moment. That's what's so wonderful about the practice, is you just see things in a matter-of-fact, ordinary and mundane way in everything that you do. Even when you sit down to meditate, it's mundane and ordinary. I mean, what's so mystical about putting your butt on a cushion and don't move? It's just there. You know, we could have said that the practice is falling out of bed. How hard is that? Okay, so it's the same thing. So when you see this with the idea of right view, you just return to the right view. This is very important. You will tell this to your students. You remember this. Okay. Okay. Anything
great.
else?
Yeah, due to the time limit, we probably will take the last question. And I see, Robert's hand up. Robert, go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you, everybody. Several years ago, before I heard the word awareness from Gilbert, all I know is the books I read in Dharma Drum Mountain about silent illumination. And I remember I was trying to hold a torchlight, a flashlight. It seems like I was trying to illuminate by holding a flashlight in my mind. And it seems very difficult, silent illumination. Okay, I press the button, I'm illuminating my mind. And I was really struggling. And I just forgot a few years ago, the word that Gilbert said about awareness, is this word just kind of catch me or caught me, or just like a baseball bat, whack. And the last few years, it seems the mind naturally is a flashlight. I no longer need to hold a flashlight to illuminate. And I don't know whether I'm on the right track or fall off the track, went somewhere else. So that's my question.
Yeah, it is that essentially you got to a point where you turn the mind's eye inward, and the exhortations of the ancient masters has always been to turn the mind's eye inward. So no longer are you looking at things from the perspective of samsara and conceptual and form and clinging to it. One then begins to look at what is manifesting within mind. The deepest, profoundest aspects of the Mahayana practice from Manjushri is letting go of all appearances and seeing all appearances as illusory. But we see it as illusory, and we see even more critically, I just finished this up on a Monday night class, is that the mind cannot dwell on any place or abide in any place. Mind just is. So when we say no abiding or no dwelling, it just simply allows the mind to be as expansive as its self-nature is. And so when we do that, then this is beyond our ability to conceive of anything. But also, it also reminds me of in the Shurangama Sutra, when the Buddha asked Ananda, does a blind man have sight? And yes, there's still the sight there, because even within the darkness, there's illumination. And so we do not lose that just simply because we lose an organ. So illumination is not something that we put a flashlight on. So you are correct about that, and it serves as a good example that illumination is there. We don't try to, as a samsaric, illusory sentient being, illuminate mind. Mind is self-illuminating. It illuminates self. Itself, the self-nature of mind, but also the illusory self and samsara. Understanding all of that is just mind. There's no appearances there. Some of you may get this. Some of you, this might go a little bit over your head, but it's better for you to at least try to contemplate what I just said. Okay, I would really like to thank Mina. I'd like to thank CMC for allowing me this opportunity to present the Dharma to you. I know sometimes the Dharma is something that is, this kind of a Dharma is difficult to fathom or to understand, but it is okay. Little by little, as you begin to listen to it, you will find that it will lead you. It will come to mind or illuminate the mind. And so be patient with it. Just have faith in yourself, as I had mentioned it, and it will work. The faith in the others, obviously you're listening here, so you do have faith. So please bear that in mind. I'll come back sometime, I think in January, with a Diamond Sutra, which will be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to presenting that.